Hello students, welcome to SK Biology. Today we are going to learn Mendel's first law of inheritance called as law of segregation. Law of segregation is also called as law of purity of gametes. This involves only one trait, so also called as monohybrid cross. Law of segregation states as each individual have two alleles or factors for particular trait, and these alleles separate, that is segregate from each other during gamete formation. As a result of, each gamete will have only one trait or only one allele. This clearly suggests that gametes are always pure. So this law is also called as law of purity of gametes. This is true in case of only diploid organism, that is organism having two set of all chromosome. Now let us understand how Mendel studied law of segregation by hybridization experiment. Mendel hybridized homozygous parents. One parent with homozygous dominant allele, here tall plant with dominant allele, and other parent with homozygous recessive allele, here dwarf plant with pair of recessive allele. Hybridization between homozygous parents first leads to segregation of allele during gamete formation. Homozygous tall plant will produce gamete with tall allele, and homozygous recessive parent will produce gamete with dwarf allele. These gametes will give rise to hybrid F1 generation after fertilization with genotype TT, one dominant allele, one recessive allele. So, all offsprings in F1 generation will be tall with hybrid genotype. Genotype is different than that of tall parent but showing phenotype similar to dominant parent. These results Mendel confirmed with Punnett square, in which one recessive parent shown here as a female and one dominant parent shown here as a male will produce gametes with single allele. Recessive parent will produce gamete with recessive allele and dominant parent will produce gamete with dominant allele. All possible combinations of gametes from each parent upon fertilization gives rise to hybrid F1 generation, showing phenotype all tall but genotype one dominant allele and one recessive allele. This result suggests that one dominant allele is sufficient to give tall phenotype in hybrid plants. This phenomenon is known as complete dominance. Now, Mendel wanted to know how this trait will pass to next generation, that is F2 generation. For that, he did self-fertilization of hybrid F1 plant. Hybrid F1 plant produce two different gametes, one with dominant allele and one with recessive allele. Then, after fertilization, these gametes will combine to produce F2 generation, where Mendel observed that phenotype of F2 generation plants as 3 plants are tall and 1 plant is dwarf. But genotype of these F2 plant shows 1 pure dominant, 1 pure recessive and 2 hybrid plants. Here again Mendel found that tall trait is dominant over dwarf trait, showing complete dominance. So, phenotype of F2 generation is 3:1, 3 tall plant and 1 dwarf plant, whereas genotype of F2 generation is 1:2:1, where 1 pure tall, 2 hybrid tall and 1 pure dwarf plant is present. Let us understand this same inheritance phenomenon with different example. Suppose two homozygous parents. Mother with blue eye color having pair of recessive alleles for this trait, and father with brown eyes having pair of dominant alleles for brown eyes. At the time of gamete formation, these alleles will be segregated. Then, at the time of fertilization, both parents will equally contribute to produce F1 generation. F1 generation will be having hybrid genotype for as brown is a dominant allele and showing complete dominance over blue allele. If F1 generation undergoes self-fertilization, it will give similar result as that of F2 generation in pea plant experiment by Mendel, which is 3 F2 generation offsprings will have brown eyes with hybrid genotype and 1 offspring will have blue eyes with homozygous recessive genotype, maintaining 3:1 Mendelian ratio. I hope you have understood how one trait is inherited from one generation to next generation by Mendelian principle. Now the question is, if you have given one plant with tall phenotype, could you find out the genotype of this plant? The answer is yes. We can find out genotype of any given plant. For that, we need to do test cross, in which given plant we need to hybridize with homozygous recessive plant. This hybridization will give two output depending on genotype of given plant. Case 1 will be if plant is homozygous tall, that is only dominant allele is present. After crossing with homozygous recessive, it will give rise to single type of gamete. So, all plants produced in F1 generation will be tall. And the case 2 will be if plant is heterozygous tall, then it will produce two different types of gamete. After crossing with homozygous recessive, it will give two types of plant, tall as well as dwarf. This result suggests that if plant is homozygous, it will produce single type of gamete, and if plant is heterozygous, it will produce different types of gamete, which results into different types of plant, showing